Hello coaches, welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach Breakdown. This week we're going to take a look at individual positional analysis. This is something that we do on the Modern Soccer Coach website for players who are looking for that extra edge, that extra support, looking at their games tactically. If you want more information on that there, please check it on the link below. You can find out more information if you're a player looking for that extra support. It's on the link below. And this is an example of how we approach individual positional analysis. And this is Alex Kinetator, who is a midfielder, played for Coastal Carolina in the US at college, and is now playing in Spain professionally for Club Deportivo Castuera. And he was kind enough to let us share some of the process that we go through. Now, we don't share the full presentation. We don't share our positional radars. That's something that we keep confidential, Modern Soccer Coach. But for the next 10 minutes, we're going to share how we look at the video, how we break it down, and what separates individual positional analysis from just general feedback. If you enjoy it, please give it a like and subscribe. And again, if you want to find more information, it's on the link below. All right, Alexander, midfield analysis. Let's go. Okay, so our starting point for the positional analysis is the position itself. Now, you can find 15 things for each position probably, but what we've done with MSC analysis is we've used 8 key characteristics for each position, and they are aligned with data points that are used in the professional game today. So we've gone and looked at these radars and then created our own, and then used that then to hopefully give some direction to the feedback, and then hopefully look at the player's game from a tactical context. So the reason for looking at the game from a tactical context as opposed to a technical context is that if you look from a technical context, you might find yourself then looking at all the right foot, left foot, control, shooting, dribbling that might not apply to a certain position or might not apply to a certain system that the player's playing in. An example of this is Lionel Messi, who, if you look at his goal breakdown, is really unbalanced. A lot of left-footed shots. He doesn't use his right foot a lot. Similar to his physical metrics, which aren't high-intensity sprinting. He walks a lot of the game. There's data on that there as well. So we want to look at the position and then understand how the player works in that position. And this is a clip of how we start that conversation with Alexander about the position, about the metrics, about the data, about his game as a number 6/number 8 in a 4-3-3. So what I'm looking for the starting point of this, Alexander, is not to create and count and add and quantify everything, but basically to look at certain areas of your game like they would be if they were quantified and see if we can improve them. So I like this example here for 2 reasons. One is because the game isn't changing that much in that central midfield position in terms of what the demands were 2 years ago and what the demands are today. But second of all, I think sometimes players think that a great radar is one that's all coloured in, and I want to challenge that. And a great radar for me is something that there's real ties in. So it's basically a strengths-based approach. So when I'm looking at your game, I looked at it from an area of ranking all these different areas. So after we talk about the position, after we talk about the role of data, and then after we share the MSC metrics, then we start the process of self-analysis, which is where Alexander feels he is in certain situations. I'm not going to share a lot of this process because it is confidential, but I'm going to share 2 key points that we went through with Alexander where you can tell that he is quite analytical and aware of where he stands in certain aspects of the game. Progressive passes, Juninho.
That's one of my weaknesses. I'd say probably like a 5 if positioning is a 7.
Ugarte, aerial.
I'm not the most athletic, but I do feel that I win most balls in the area just because of positioning and just, competing. So I'd also say 7, probably.
Our next step is the fun stuff where I take a look and analyze a number of Alexander's games with the reference points that we've discussed and then provide feedback on where I feel there are trends. It's very, very important from my side to make this a two-way conversation because you don't have the context of systems, instructions, environment that the player's in. The first part was progressive passes. This is an aspect of the game that I felt there was room for growth. So I wanted to get 5-6 clips and show Alexander of ways that I thought there were opportunities to play forward. And again, you're going to see here, his viewpoint and his insight is really, really important too. So just, the quicker option there, maybe? And I think there's the earliest you win the ball, like right there, I think the ball's got to go there. But the pace of the pass now means that the defensive line's recovered. So I think you can be a little bit more aggressive with not just the timing, but also the pace that you put on the ball to kind of dictate. As you probably alluded to, I think you can be aggressive with the first touch and look a little bit earlier. But I think the earlier the option, I think sometimes it helps you out. Like that pass there, I think if you thread it, again, from a data standpoint, it would have value. But sometimes I think, again, from a selfish standpoint, so like this one here, I think you do a good job of seeing this. Like this is a great clip. You do a good job of seeing it, and you open up and then fizz it in. Like I love that, but I didn't see a lot of that. I seen more of this one here. It looks like pressure's coming on the other side, and you've already made your mind up to twist and turn. So you keep it rather than hooked up. I think this is the last one. Yeah, good turn there, and I think maybe that's when you play to the 10. So it's more. I wouldn't say that there's a technical deficiency, Alexander. I think I'd say it's just more
the decisions.
Pass selection, yeah, 100%. And then you would know yourself better than I do, but maybe it's the confidence to play a higher risk ball. Maybe it's the comfort level.
Oh, it's definitely a sense of I try to not lose the ball whenever I have it and just play as simple as possible. That helped me a lot because, as you said, it's not necessarily the technical deficiency. It's more the selection of passes. But I need to see it in order to understand, okay, I could have played that ball. So that's kind of annoying. But it's something I've been looking at for a while as well.
Yeah, it's volume. I always say, like, if there's a deficiency, there's a deficiency. We can all see it. But if it's a volume thing, then you're looking at that at the pro level. Yeah, like and you look at when you look at the volume of that Casemiro's passing the same passes that you're also passing. I just didn't clip them, but he's having a higher volume of forward passes in those 100. So yeah, awareness, I would say, is the biggest thing. The next aspect we talked about was 1v1 defending, and this is where context becomes key. Now, Alex, if you can remember, rated himself quite high in 1v1 defending, and I wouldn't disagree that his 1v1 defending was a strong point, but there were certain clips in the analysis where, as a number 6 or a number 8, he was drifting into wide areas, and he wasn't necessarily losing challenges, but he was allowing players to play out of spaces and making the field bigger. And that was something that I wanted to get his viewpoint on that I'll share right now. It's almost when you go into those wide areas here, can you contain? So not necessarily. This guy does really well here, but he also then makes the pitch really big. So when you drop into those wide areas, what Rodri did was he made the pitch small when he went into wide areas. Sometimes you increase the amount of running you have to do, which, in fairness, you're willing to do it. It's just cutting it down. This one here, I just think is, again, keeping nice condensed area there. Maybe it's seen a little bit earlier, but definitely keeping that guy there so he doesn't open up. And that was a trend that I just saw, that it's not necessarily losing tackles. It's allowing a player to come out of an area of pressure. So maybe it's body shape. Like I said, you're 1v1, you're getting in these opportunities. Again, I think 1v3 there, as a coach, you would take those odds. And then the third aspect that we talked upon, and again, this is where context and communication become key. Defensive positioning in terms of tracking runners out of spaces that I'm going to show you right now. And then Alexander had brilliant insight for me that he was playing for more of a marking system. So then it opens up the dialogue of marking versus zonal defending as a 6 or an 8. When or where do you need to switch? And this is the part of analysis that I really enjoy, because it is that conversation between player tendencies, player profile, team tendencies, team profiles, and the game itself. Here we go. These are situations where maybe you're too honest, Alexander. Maybe you do the work of someone else. Where here you track this runner, opens up a central space for a midfielder to get into.
Probably influenced me for a while because I'd assumed that was the instructions for this specific game, but it just also keeps me thinking, okay, maybe it created new bad habits.
Yeah. I would say the thing to look at is like back to prioritizing or higher value. That space that you're about to run out of, I think as an analyst has massive value as a 6. If you're going to dominate a game, or if you have a choice of dominating a game, do it in that space. So then here you just get caught on the wrong side. There's 2 10s, and it was I think again just a little bit man oriented on the strong side 10. This one here, yes, it's that space again. So like right now, I really like your position. Perfect. 2v2 out wide. Good night. You just go about 2 yards out of this zone here, and I think it gives the Georgia Southern player a little pocket. So again, sometimes when I looked at it, I thought, it's funny you make your assumptions. I'm thinking you're doing too much work there, Alexander. If you follow this guy right now and you have 2 defenders in the, you could just pass them on. But look at your midfield now. You kind of do the wing back or the fullback's work here on the outside. But I think you do it twice, where you track the runner really well. So good transition defending. But now that space again, he's going to move you. And so what I would say is understanding the context that it's a principle, perhaps. I actually think your transition defending recovery runs was the out of possession strength higher than the 1v1 for me, because of your willingness to do, when the ball turns over, you don't have a problem recovering 60, 70 yards. What I would say is like understanding the context of man to man. I would say like maybe it's just that central zone there that you got to make sure from an organization standpoint.
It's funny that you mentioned that because now in this team, the coach doesn't really, comment on my game much, other than stay in the middle, never go wide, never. And I guess that's also just dependent on the system he wants to play, but also just the tendency I had for whatever reason. But it still, at the end of the day, affected my game. So it's something I've been aware of, but it's, you breaking this down and, really reiterating it is kind of opening my mind. Okay, I did have that tendency. And I guess sometimes I rely on the fact that I know I can do the hard work of like running back, recovery run. I rely on that too much, and I just stop thinking of what would be the most efficient way to defend this way. It also comes into kind of the psychological aspect of the game, which I feel like nobody really talks about. But in general, do I trust my teammate to pick him up? Like I might just be better off making myself look like a fool or make a mistake that I know is a mistake. That might be the mistake of, that's going to hurt us the least, or the chances of us getting hurt from that is the lowest. So I think that is also a factor there. But, at the end of the day, I need to make sure that I do the best thing I can to help the team.
And then the final part of the conversation to conclude is to go back to the radar that we worked on before, alongside his ratings, our analysis, where we felt he was, go through any differences. It's a strengths-based approach, so it's not necessarily about finding weakness in Alexander's game. It's looking for moments and opportunities in the context of the game that you can find ways to maximize certain strengths, and then also find ways to deal with certain solutions in other situations. So again, going back, the progressive passes was something that we looked at. It was increasing the volume of that. Alexander is a really, really, really strong player in possession in terms of keeping possession. It's just finding ways to play it forward a bit more and contributing to the attack. And then defensively, it's looking at that marking, that going wide as a number 6 and a number 8 and dealing with those situations. Marking versus zonal defending when players are moving outside of that central space. I really, really enjoyed that. So here's a little bit on how that conversation concluded. those passes that it's not necessarily forcing possession, because that's a confidence thing as well and a psychological thing. But maybe that's trying 2 or 3 more higher risk a game. And again, then looking at the video afterwards and saying, that's the right one to risk. That's how I look at data, and that's kind of where I want to go with the individual stuff. Is not to, I don't think you change people's worlds, but I just think you open up a little bit of a dialogue between them to make better decisions in games, or maybe a higher volume.
No, I totally agree. And that's why I also really appreciate you taking the time to look at it, because you have no preconceived biases of, you don't know my character or my personality, or you don't like me or you don't dislike me. You're just looking as me as a player, and that's what you see. I think that can be very valuable. Obviously, the opinion itself, it's a fine margin, because sometimes I'm just doing what instructions I was given, but sometimes it is a habit, which could be better. So I think that it's definitely interesting and valuable if you take the right conclusions from it.
So there we go, an individual positional breakdown. The majority of it, there's some of it that we can't share, obviously, with the positional radars that we keep for the players that we're working with. But if you'd like to find out more, you can check it out on the link below. A huge, huge thanks to Alexander for allowing us to share that information in this video. So hope you enjoyed it. Before you go, please like and subscribe. I will see you next week. Goodbye.